Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Zoe and I'm so happy that you clicked on today's video. So it is mid-September. We are about to approach the official start of fall, and obviously I could not be happier. I am such a fall girl. I am so freaking stoked about it. But with that comes fall videos. I feel like I just want to crank out as many fall videos as I can over the next couple months. So today we are starting with a fall recommendation video. I have a few stacks of books here that I just want to talk about. These are going to be mostly just books that have that fall vibe. I'm not going to be including a lot of like horror or mystery thriller books because I feel like those are more spooky season books, and I want to do a separate recommendation video for spooky season. So these are just going to be the books that give that fall feeling, that early fall vibe, whether it be where the book is set, what goes on in the book, just the vibe, like the eerie feeling of it. We're just going to talk about them, and I'm going to show you some of my favorite fall book recommendations. So I tried to pick some books that were not talked about as much so that you can have some books that you haven't read before, but I have to include some popular picks. And the first one I feel like is probably in everybody's fall recommendation video, and that is The Dead Romantics by Ashley Poston. I mean, I had to include this because this is such a fall staple. It's about a girl who goes home to see her family after a tragic event happens, and along the way she falls in love with a ghost, which I don't know about you, but that sounded so intriguing to me when I heard about it, so I had to pick it up, and I can confirm it is such a perfect book for fall. It has romance, it has some family dynamics, it has just the most eerie vibe, and I loved it so much. Then we have Spells for Lost Things by Jenna Evans Welch. This is a YA romance, kind of contemporary novel about a girl who goes home to Salem, Massachusetts with her mom after her aunt passes away. And when she's there, she finds out that her mom has been keeping the secret from her whole life, that her family is actually made up of witches. So she spends some time trying to get to the bottom of that, learn more about her past, and along the way there's also some super cute romance as per usual. So this one again is really fun. It literally takes place in Salem, Massachusetts. So, you know, it's just really good for fall. Then we have a book that I just finished yesterday and I am fully obsessed with. We have Six of Crows by Leigh Bardugo. This is a super good fantasy read for fall. It is so much fun. I literally could not put this book down. I feel like I'm gonna be in a Six of Crows hangover for the next 6 months. Like, it was so intense, so good. It has those perfect dark fall vibes. You will just absolutely fall in love with all the characters, the setting, everything. There are so many layers to this book. It's not just like what it sounds like. There's so much more to it. All the characters have such deep pasts that I love learning about, and I feel like it's really easy to get into. So I would highly recommend this one for fall if you haven't read this yet. I know it's really popular, but don't be like me and keep waiting because you will regret it once you finally read it. Then I have one of my favorite romances ever. I have Before We Were Strangers by Renee Carlino. This is about two people who fall in love in college and then something happens that splits them apart, and then years later they're able to reconnect and fall back in love. And I think what makes this one so fall to me is that it's set in New York City, which is like my ideal fall location. That's where I would love to be during the fall. So I just think this one's perfect. Also, the romance is so sweet. I literally never stop thinking about this book. It is so precious. One of my favorite couples ever is in this book, and I highly recommend reading it for fall. Then we have Love in the Time of Serial Killers by Alicia Thompson. This one actually does take place during the summer in June and July. I think I actually included this in my summer recommendation video, but I would also say it's good for fall because, first of all, the title is literally Love in the Time of Serial Killers. Like, the cover is so fall, but it's just fun because it's a romance about a girl who thinks that her neighbor is a serial killer. It's kind of a rom-com type of thing, and I think it's really fun for this season. Next, I have a fall staple. I have The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by B.E. Schwab. I feel like this is the epitome of fall. Like, this book is so perfect for fall. It has that dark, eerie setting. It is such a beautiful story. It can get slow at times, but I think that's kind of the point. Like, you need to read it and get to the end to really fully appreciate the story. And I think that this one is just beautiful and so good. And if you haven't read it yet, I would highly recommend it for fall because it is just, it's perfect. And it's just completely everything you want to be feeling during this time of year. And then to follow that up, I have a classic, The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde. This is basically your classic version of The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. It was a very controversial book back when it came out, back in the day. Lots of people had issues with it, but I thought that it was a really great read. It's super short, it's not super hard to understand, and if you like classics or you kind of dabble in classics, I would say it's a really good choice. Then we have one that I feel like most people have read, but I had to include it. We have the Inheritance Game series by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. This is a trilogy, but there was a fourth one that just came out that's kind of like a spin-off, but these books are so perfect for fall. They are basically the YA book version of Knives Out, about a girl who inherits this man's fortune after he passes away, even though she's never met him, never heard of him. The only catch is that she has to live in his mansion for a full year before she can get the money. So you kind of follow her living in the mansion with his whole family, solving all these riddles and puzzles, trying to figure out why she was given his fortune. And it is such a fun time, super quick read. Highly, highly recommend if you're one of the few people who has not read this series yet. Then we have one that I feel like does not get talked about enough. I always try to include this in my videos when it applies to the theme. We have Neverworld Wake. This is such a good fall read, again, because of that eerie setting. It's kind of like, when you think of it, it's like dark, rainy, thunderstorms type thing. It's about these friends who go out one night to come back and get in a car crash, and they wake up the next day thinking everything's fine until they realize that they are in the Neverworld Wake, which means that they will keep reliving the same day over and over until they can unanimously decide who the one person is that gets to live and all the others have to die. And as you can guess, that would get pretty high stakes. I mean, having to choose who the one person is that has to live would be such a hard thing to do. So I think this one is super fun, highly recommend it. I wish this one was more popular. Then we have two romances that I love to recommend, and I think they're both fall for the same reason. So first we have one of my favorites ever, When in Rome by Sarah Adams. If you watch me, you would know that I am a huge Sarah Adams fan. If I have not convinced you to read a Sarah Adams book yet, I hope this can be the first. This one is so good for fall because it's kind of like Gilmore Girls vibes. It's a small town romance, Grumpy Sunshine. Almost kind of like Lorelai and Luke in a way, but the reason this one reminds me of Gilmore Girls is because of that small town setting. It's kind of like that small town where you can't go anywhere without everybody being up in your business, trying to figure out what's going on in your life, and it is just so much fun to read. I love reading about Rome, Kentucky. It is one of my favorite fictional towns, and I will recommend this book forever, but especially during the fall. And then the other romance is Part of Your World by Abby Jimenez. Again, because this one is a small town romance. I love just those small town settings during the fall. It's like so perfect. Again, just reminds me of Gilmore Girls, which is obviously a fall staple. You have to watch Gilmore Girls during the fall. So any book that reminds me of it, I'm gonna wanna read. So highly recommend this one if you also haven't read this. Abby Jimenez is such a great author, and this story is just so, so sweet. And then we have Under the Whispering Door by TJ Klune. This one is kind of a cozy fantasy. It's the same author of The House in the Cerulean Sea, but this one is actually about death. It is about this tea shop that people go to after they die when they're kind of in the in-between, and they're trying to, you know, figure out their unfinished business. And I love this one because it is something you would expect to be really sad, but it actually is really happy as well. It has found family, and just the sweetest relationships, and I love it so much, and it is literally the perfect fall read. Yeah, as far as TJ Klune's books go, I would say that this is the best one for this time of year. It's one of those that will really make you think and make good life choices, and it'll stick with you for a really long time. Then we have A History of Wild Places by Shay Earnshaw. This is another one that I never hear people talk about, but I cannot recommend enough. I have compared this one to the movie Don't Worry, Darling in the past because that is very much what it's like. It's one of those high suspense books where you're kind of like, what on earth is going on the entire time? And then at the end you get all your answers and everything starts to make sense, but the whole rest of the book you're just kind of confused and questioning things along with the characters, and I think that's what makes it such a fun book. It's magical realism, sort of like a fantasy type thing, while also being like a mystery thriller, and I think it is just the most fun ever. I wish more people would read this. I read it on a rainy day and personally thought it was perfect, so I hope I can convince you to do the same and read it this fall. Then I have Again But Better by Christine Riccio. This is actually somebody who started out on BookTube. I've been watching her for so many years, and when she announced she was going to be an author, I was so excited. This was her first book and I think it's great for fall. It's about a girl who does a semester abroad in London, kind of like Steph Borer vibes. And it has some romance to it, it has a time loop, there's some magical realism, and she basically gets a chance at reliving her life, and I don't want to say more than that because I don't want to spoil anything. I think it's good to go into it mostly blind, but this one is such a good choice. I think it's great for fall. It's kind of like that London, like rainy vibe, but you also travel all over. Not that this book is specifically set in the fall, but it just gives that fall vibe to me, so I guess that's all I can really say, and I would definitely recommend it. Then we have The Darkest Minds trilogy by Alexandra Bracken. This one is so good. It's about kids who have superpowers and kind of have to try to stop the government and save the world. It's another one of those typical YA dystopian fantasy books, and I feel like all of those are perfect during the fall. So I wanted to talk about this one because I feel like it is another one that is not talked about as much. Not as many people have read it, and I think that should change. So definitely a great choice for fall if you're looking for a good YA book. It's a super quick read, and I think you would love it. And then of course I have to talk about one more classic that is also a fall staple. We have Little Women. This is the most perfect classic for fall. You cannot change my mind. It is just the most beautiful story. If you haven't seen the movie or read the book, I highly recommend doing both, but the book is so worth the read. And I feel like I don't really need to explain it because I feel like everybody knows what Little Women is, but I just highly recommend reading the classic. It's such a beautiful story. It's not that hard to understand, and it's just such a good time. And then I have some books that I don't have the physical copies of, so I was saving them for the end. The first one that I would highly recommend is The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches. This one is your perfect cozy fantasy fall book. With some romance to it. It's about these witches who are living in the world with humans, but they're trying to stay kind of undercover, kind of like Harry Potter vibes. But this book is very much like The House in the Cerulean Sea, but fall and witches. It's like that cozy fantasy where the woman has to go live with this family of witches and kind of teach them a little bit, kind of like in The House in the Cerulean Sea. It's very much the same vibe, but it is so good. The romance is so good, the found family is so good. I just loved this book, and I think it is the most perfect fall read. And then we have Accidentally Amy by Lynn Painter. This one I read last fall. It's on Kindle Unlimited, and I have to say I don't think it's the best book you'll ever read. It is not the best. It has some cringy moments, some cringy writing. The romance is not the most amazing, but it is literally the perfect fall read because it's about a woman who literally has a meet cute in a coffee shop ordering a pumpkin spice latte during the fall. Like, I don't honestly think it could get more fall than that. So for that reason, I think it's super cute and fun. It's really short. I read it in a day, and I think it would just be a fun little addition to your fall season if you're looking for just like a silly little rom-com that is super fall themed. Then we have The Dance of Thieves duology by Mary E. Pearson. This is one of my favorites. I love it so much. And again, I feel like fantasy is just perfect for fall. It's obviously the right season for it, so I had to include this one. This one is so good. The romance in it is amazing. The action and adventure is incredible. It does have moments that remind me of The Hunger Games, which is my favorite, so I loved that a lot. And the couple in it, I think about at least once a week. Like, I love them so much. They don't leave my mind. This book is so good. The duology is amazing. Just go read it. Go read it. And then we have the Defy the Night series. This is currently only 2 books. The 3rd book has not come out yet, but these are also amazing. Again, they're YA fantasy. These are set in a kingdom. Also Dance of Thieves is, which I personally love. And there's romance in it again. It's so good. And I cannot recommend all of these YA fantasies enough. Like, they are so good. And they have all the fall vibes. So like, just go read them. Go read them, and then we can all struggle to wait for the 3rd book of the Defy the Night series together, because it's painful. It is, but you should go read it for fall, and then we can all read the 3rd book at the same time when it comes out. And finally, I have one last YA series to talk about. I have the Raven Cycle series. This is made up of 4 books. The first one is The Raven Boys, and this is another one that just screams fall because it's about this family of clairvoyants, and it literally opens up with them watching these ghosts of people that are going to die walk by. And it is just such a crazy series. There is found family, kind of coming of age, and our main character in this book has known for as long as she can remember that once she meets her true love, she will cause him to die in some way. So it is just a very high stakes, very suspenseful series, but also so sweet. I love the characters and I think about this one all the time. I read it last summer and I think it would be the most perfect read during the fall. So those are all the books that I think you need to read this fall, at least for the beginning of fall. Of course, as I said, I'll get to those spooky season recs next month, but I think all of these are such great choices. I hope you were able to find something in this video that grabbed your attention, made you want to read it, and that you can read it and have the most beautiful, perfect fall, because it is truly the best time of the year, and I'm just so excited about it. So if you guys enjoyed this video, feel free to like, comment, or subscribe. That helps me so much. And if you want to be friends, all of my socials will be linked down below, as always. So that was the video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.